Welcome back. A retired Appleton businessman announcing his candidacy today in the race for the 2026 8th Congressional District seat.
Mark Scheffler, the former owner of the Appleton Group Wealth Management LLC, says he's running as a progressive Democrat. If elected, he would be the first non-Republican to win an election for the 8th since Steve Kagan back in 2008. Our Drew Best spoke with Scheffler shortly after he announced that campaign. He joins us in the studio with more on this newest candidate. Drew.
Cami and Chris, Mark Scheffler says he hopes to bring the virtues of Northeast Wisconsin out to Washington, D.C., campaigning on economic, social, and environmental sustainability.
Mark Scheffler is the second Democrat to enter the 2026 race, joining former Green Bay School Board member Rick Crossan on the primary ballot. The former business owner says he plans to run as a different type of Democrat.
Northeast Wisconsin is a garden spot, and what I want to do is I want to reshape America, and I want to shape our national politics and our political parties to better reflect the people of Northeast Wisconsin.
Scheffler also plans to stand out from a funding standpoint, announcing Tuesday he will not accept money from corporate PACs or the National Democratic Party. Instead, Scheffler says he will commit to a budget of $5 per voter, totaling about $2.1 million.
I use the phrase, I'll be nobody's congressman but the people of the 8th Congressional District, and it's true. And it starts with not being beholden to anyone, not being beholden to any political party, and certainly not being beholden to a national political machine.
Current 8th District Representative Tony Weed won the 2024 election over Dr. Kristen Lyerly by nearly 15%. Scheffler looking to close that gap in 2026.
In every congressional election, society calls someone with special skills to serve. So about 10 years ago, when we were struggling for affordable health care, it was Dr. Steve Kagan. When we were studying issues on the war on terror, it was Mike Gallagher, and I honor their service entirely. This time it's different. This time I think the district is going to look for someone with a specialty in sustainable economics, someone with a specialty in sustainable society, and someone that can tie all that together into a sustainable environment.
We reached out to Tony Weed's office for comment on the campaign announcement. His spokesperson sending us this statement, which reads, quote, Congressman Weed has delivered major wins for the people of Wisconsin's 8th District, lower costs for hardworking families, a secure border, no taxes on tips or overtime pay, and safer communities. I'd welcome any of these far-left candidates to try convincing Wisconsin families that their radical policies of higher prices and open borders would serve them better. Northeast Wisconsinites won't fall for it, end quote. Weed has yet to formally announce his re-election campaign. However, if he does run and Scheffler or any other Democrat wins the election, it means Weed would become the first congressman in the district since Jay Johnson in the late 1990s to run for re-election and lose after one term. Chris?
All right, Drew, thanks.